Hi everyone, I'll be doing a Brewday today, and it'll be the first time that I've actually filmed a Brewday. So to get on with it, I'll say that it's a New Zealand Pale Ale, which is basically an American Pale Ale with New Zealand ingredients. I've got about 92% Gladfields Ale Malt and 4% each of Gladfields Light Crystal and Medium Crystal. Aim to mash in at 66 degrees Celsius. Hold it at that for about an hour, then up it to about 72 degrees, hold that 15 minutes, and up it to 78 degrees, and then take the bag out. Do a 30-minute boil, but the first top edition, which should be Nelson Sauvin, will be at 20 minutes to go. And as you can see, I'll add something every 5 minutes till the end of the boil. Combination of Nelson Sauvin and New Zealand Cascade hops. And that should hopefully come to about 18.5 to 19 litres. And I'll ferment it with USO5 yeast. So I'll get on with it. Okay, now in the kitchen, and I've got my grain all laid out. 300 grams total of crystal, 150 grams each of light and medium, weighed out in the bowl. And should be 3.3 kilos left in that bag of Gladfields Ale Malt, of which I'll be using all of it. And just waiting for the strike water to heat up. I've got 9 litres in there, and aiming for about 74 in order to achieve 66 degrees when the grain goes in there. So yeah, still a few degrees to go. Okay, we've got the grain in the pot. Just want to iron out some dough balls and then stick it in the oven to try and maintain about 66 degrees for an hour. Yep. And here's the pot in the oven, about half an hour in. Just check the temperature, and it's pretty much exactly on target for 66 degrees. Okay, it's now been an hour, and took the temperature, it's still about 66 degrees. So now, through a combination of heating from the element underneath and topping up with a bit of boiling water, I'll raise the temperature up to 72 and then hold that for about 15 minutes, and then ultimately raise it up to about 78 and take the bag out. Okay, I've taken the pot out of the oven at about 72 degrees, and now I'm ramping up to a final temperature of about 78. And in the second smaller pot over there, I've got the first lot of my sparge water heating up to around 75-80. And so, after I've taken the bag out of the large pot, I'll and let it drain a little bit, stick it in the small pot and more or less continue repeating that cycle until I have, well, the big pot basically full, in which I'll do the hot boil, and well, at least half full second pot, if not close to full. So boil will be spanned over the two pots, but only the hops going in the big one. Okay, so mid-sparge, as it were. I've got the big pot, well, most of the way full. Don't really want to fill it up that much more than that, given that it's going to boil. And the smaller pot with all the bag and pretty much filled to the brim at the moment, just having a soak. Yeah. 2 pots of wort coming up to the boil. And the first 2 hop additions, Nelson, Sauvin on the left, New Zealand Cascade on the right, which will be 20 minutes and 15 minutes respectively. Now are both pots on the boil. The small pot's been going for best part of half an hour, so I'll probably only give that another 5 minutes and then stick it in the bathtub to cool down, while the large pot has only just really started to boil. So give it 10 minutes from when it started before I add my 20-minute hop addition. The big pot's gotten past the foamy sort of hop break phase, I guess you call it. Now for the first hop addition, 20 minutes to go. Yeah, 10 grams of Nelson Sauvin. So in that goes. Okay, now my 2 pots sitting in the highly technical cooling device, and make my last hop addition for the day, which is 10 grams of Nelson Sauvin, but I'll dry hop it in the fermenter in a few days' time as well. Okay, now with the wort most of the way cooled, still sitting in the bath, I'll rehydrate my USO5 yeast. Normally, or most of the time, I would be making would be using a starter, because I would have harvested yeast from a previous batch, which I'll almost certainly do at the end of this batch. But today, just be going from a fresh packet of USO5, so probably let that sit in the glass, cover it for about 15 minutes, and then pitch it into the batch. Right, so now the contents of the pots have been, well, more or less emptied into the fermenter. Just using a sieve for the big pot that had the hops in it, to sort of minimise the amount of hot material going in the fermenter, even though more hot material will be added later, well, in 3 or 4 days' time with the dry hop. But I'll just try and minimise it, I guess. So where are we? Don't think we can really see the markings on the side. Should be about, well, is about 14 litres or so, I think. So when that's finished draining into there, I'll take a gravity reading, and I'm aiming for about 1054 or so. I expect this to be at least well into the 60s as it is, so after I take a gravity reading, I'll sort of plug the numbers into a spreadsheet that I made and figure out how much cold water to add to bring it down to about 1054. Okay, so now I've taken a hydrometer sample, but before that I gave it a few minutes of agitation with the big spoon that's still sitting in there to get some aeration going. So from the 14 litres that I've got currently sitting in there, looks like I've got about 1066. Yeah, 1066 on the hydrometer, so I'll go and plug those numbers into a spreadsheet and figure out how much water to add to get it down to about 1054. Right, so this is just a fairly crude spreadsheet I made a while ago. I normally do a starter and use it to calculate the effect that putting a starter in would have on the gravity, considering the starter would have fermented out, whereas the rest of what you've got won't have fermented out. But today there's zero starter, so there's zero in there. So I measured 1066 and 14 litres. So of course its real gravity is 1066. That would be different if there was a starter in there. So really I want to top it up to about 17 in order to hit about 1054. So I'll go do exactly that and pitch the yeast. And now it's topped up to 17 litres and the yeast is pitched. And it's in its normal resting place off the bath. You can see the stick on the thermometer, it's still at about 22 degrees. So just let it sit in the cool bath water, which is probably around 17 or 18. And yeah, try and get it ideally about 18 or so. Although there's some reasonably warm days at the moment, so it could be quite difficult to achieve without active cooling. But anyway, that's pretty much Brewday done, apart from the cleanup. I don't think I'll be doing that. Here we are, about 4 days in, or just under 4 days, at about 90 hours. And I think fermentation has pretty much been and gone. It's probably about the smallest krausen that I've ever had. You can see the sort of stuff on the side of the fermenter hasn't got very high. But anyway, time to dry hop. So got about 20 grams of New Zealand Cascade and 10 grams of Nelson Sauvin to go in there. So let's do it. Dry hopping. And lid back on, so that's probably about it until I bottle it. Just trying to keep it cool. It's about 25 degrees during the day here and about sort of 12 overnight, so well that's outside anyway. So just keep it in the sort of bath of water and add a couple of blocks of ice to it every day. So that's about it really, until I bottle it.